Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cyber Inspiration Podcast. My name is Evgeny. I have been around cybersecurity for the last 20 years and I have a lot of experience working with a variety of cybersecurity vendors. My main work is vendor consulting and cybersecurity advisory for companies. As part of my passion in technology and cyber, I've been intrigued to learn how a company starts. I started the podcast to understand the thinking process and what motivated people to start their own company. This podcast is affiliated with Security Architecture Podcast.
We have a pleasure today to talk to David from Dune Security. And I'm very, very excited because I just watched Dune 2 in IMAX. So I really want to understand the connection between Dune movie and the company. David, can you please tell me about yourself and the company?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me today, Evgeny. The movie, I think they're saying it might go down as one of the best movies of all time, right? The production value is incredible. I think the Hans Zimmer score for me was what did it for me. And the scenes where they're fighting the Harkonnens with the spice harvesters, that's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. Dune Security actually was not named after Dune the movie. Ironically, Dune Security was named after it. Dune, D-U-N, is an old Gaelic word for fortification, right? Protection. And we kind of have the side benefit of having the same name as the movie and this incredible franchise. The company was named Dune, and then we've definitely basked in kind of the Dune lore, right? We definitely enjoy that as a cultural element of our company. Our first dummy environment was all characters from Dune, Paul Atreides and Duncan, Idaho, so on and so forth. So Dune Security was founded in May of last year. We are a 10-month-old company, and I think we're hitting a bit above our weight class. We are funded by Craft Ventures, Alumni Ventures, Sequoia out of their Scout Fund, as well as Antler and Firestreak Ventures. And we've had 10 enterprise CISOs, some of the biggest names in the industry, fund us, right? And we built this incredible CISO advisory council of over 70 industry-leading enterprise CISOs who have aligned themselves with Dune because of how important our mission is. I think before this new age of AI, 80% of breaches at minimum started because of employee error. And there's really no great way to improve this problem, right? There's the beautiful castle walls, so to speak, right? But we saw in Dune the movie, the walls can break down with the right types of threats. And candidly, I think when you're segmenting the network with Zscaler and you have CrowdStrike on every endpoint and you have SailPoint sitting on top of the identity layer, you're in a pretty good spot, but there's really no way to quantify and quantifiably reduce risk in the employee layer in the current state. And I think CISOs are tired of this, which is why we started Dune Security. We are reducing the attack surface for every enterprise. We are preventing AI-powered social engineering. And I think our mission is incredibly important.
This is a very, very good story. And we're going to jump right now to kind of the inspiration. As you know, the name of the podcast is Cyber Inspiration. What happened a year ago? You're quite a young company that clicked in David, I want to do that. So tell me about what happened a year ago, or maybe before, that made you or moved you towards this company.
Yeah, I had been building other people's cybersecurity companies from the product and the revenue perspective, both AI and cybersecurity companies from pre-seed all the way through post-Series D, and helping to build these companies into unicorns. And I was very close, and I was working in VC. I was doing many things at the time, doing many things at once. And I realized there were all these great solutions for, again, the castle walls. There's marginally better improvements in endpoint security and network security and email security and cloud security every year. And there are great companies being built, companies like Wiz, which has been a North Star for us and one that we've tried to emulate. But again, the technology in this employee risk space and the execution has been lacking. There needs to be a solution that, again, can take in all of the relevant data about employee risk, contextual data, behavioral data, as well as third-party tool data, and pinpoint within the company who's creating risk, to what extent, and how. And that's what we do, right? I think we are AI fighting AI, right? The data sources become increasingly disparate, which requires us to use pretty heavy AI engineering to really make sense of it, to make sure that we are incredibly accurate in pinpointing within the companies who's creating risk, to what extent, and how. And so that was the initiation, was figure out who's creating risk. And the initial idea for Dune Security was quite simple. Once we know who's creating risk, let's train people at what they're bad at and not what they're good at, plus what they need for compliance, right? Fully automate this. That was the initiation of the company. And I would call that kind of a point solution, right? But what we've been building is, I think, much bigger. We are remediating risk through targeted training, but we're also remediating risk by, we can API out and actually increase the ROI of pre-existing investments that CISOs have made in network security and identity security and email security.
You brought something very interesting. You brought an amazing idea. And I'm listening to the idea. I'm like, oh my God, this is such a good idea. In reality, we all have good ideas. I can pop ideas every day. But the difference between, like you mentioned, Wiz, is taking an idea and make sure you make it to life. After you had an idea, you already mentioned, yeah, we are founded by many CISOs, but let's get to the point how. Because people really want to understand when they have an idea and when they're listening to you right now, oh my God, I have an idea. What do I do? And this change, we know right away, like really well, that for the last 10 years, 15 years, whatever we did 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, not the same what you do right now. So what did you do with your idea to understand if it's a good idea and how you actually can raise money and make it a reality?
Yeah, and I think Frank Slootman talks about this, right? He talks about execution and strategy. And strategy will only get you so far, right? At the end of the day, you have to, pick yourself up by the bootstraps and do the work. The idea for Dune Security has evolved, right, over the 10 months that we've been in existence. And initially, it was much smaller, like I mentioned. I spoke with over 200 different investors last year in an 8-month period or whatever it was. I spoke with over 150, I think over 150, maybe 200 CISOs in that time period as well.
Can I stop you here? Because this is a very interesting point.
Yeah.
You claiming as you spoke with so many people as the same you went out, walk in the park, met these people and they talk to you. But we know it's not so easy. So what made them talk to you? What did you do that the CISO will even hear your story or the VC will hear your story? Because we all have this cold messages on LinkedIn when people trying to do XYZ.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm not an expert at any one thing, but there is one thing that I've studied deeply at both Cornell and NYU, and it's something that I've used well in my professional career, and that's heuristics, right? Understanding what makes people tick. People need to feel an emotional connection to want to talk to someone, right? There has to be something, what's in it for me? We saw this opportunity where CISOs and security teams, GRC professionals, security operations centers are just so tired of the current state of security awareness training. They're so jaded with these standardized testing and training platforms where nobody's really paying attention and high-risk employees are not held accountable. Low-risk employees' time is wasted. So I think understanding that emotional connection to this space, the fact that a CISO can build the most beautiful, robust castle walls, at the end of the day, it's someone on the inside who's going to let the hackers in. Understanding that there's really this strong emotion and this fear, that was something we really tapped into in getting those initial connections and conversations going.
You will reach to LinkedIn or email and say, this is what I'm planning to do. I want to hear your idea or like your feedback.
Yeah. And I think, again, I just think vision is something that word gets around. And this was a back of the envelope 10 months ago. And now we are working with some of the biggest companies in the world. We're funded by the best investors in the world. And we have 73 of the top industry leading CISOs as our advisors in our company.
When you talk to CISO, you ask them if they want to actually chip in and be part of the company, or how does it work?
For some of these CISOs, we've been able to create like formal advisor agreements with them. I think generally what connects all of them is just that tie into our vision to reduce the attack surface, to prevent AI-powered social engineering. This is something that we all see the writing on the wall and we all know what's coming. And so I think the execution in our space has been lacking, and there needs to be a very strong, very big company in our space. And so we are fully mission driven. We have this incredible vision. And I think that's what's really gotten people on board and helping us. Yeah.
You talk to many CISO, you talk to many VCs, you raise a lot of money. Amazing. What do you do next?
Yeah, no, this is the fun part, right? This is the fun part. And again, I'll go back to, I've been reading a lot of Frank Slootman recently. I think he's one of the best tech CEOs of all time. And I think execution beats strategy 10 times out of 10, right? So the most important thing about building a company is the team, right? As Steve Jobs talked about, having all these A players on your team is incredibly important. And so I think as we've been able to sell to customers and to get into these enterprise environments, to get great advisors and great investors on board, it's the same thing with our team, right? It's with limited resources, how do we attract the best possible talent, the people that are not just here to help build the company and each function within the company today, but will grow with the company and take it to its destiny tomorrow. So it's been a lot of fun. We've brought on about 1 employee per month over the past few months since the funding from Craft Ventures, Sky Dayton, Alumni Ventures. And yes, I think hiring for me has been the most important thing I can do.
Let's go deeper. I really like sometimes to go and tap on these things.
Please.
You mentioned right now, it's a team. So if I kind of reframe this, you're talking about the company culture.
Absolutely.
Did you actually sit down with your partners, with your co-founders, with the people you started, and realize on the back of the napkin, how do I want my culture to be? Or it was building slowly, slowly, slowly?
It's actually both, Evgeny. It's a little bit of both. So literally today is our first all hands meeting where I'm delivering to our entire company. There's 10 people in the company currently. Our initial company culture, our mission, our values, and our culture. And we're formalizing it today. So it's good timing.
It's a good time to practice on me right now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I can tell you a little bit about our culture. And it's actually, again, it's a lot of it is modeled. I don't have to be the smartest person ever, but I can learn from the smartest people and the most successful people of all time. People like Frank Slootman, Elon Musk, Adam Newman in many ways, and some others, Jobs, so on and so forth. But to answer your question, we've also been, I think, pretty diligent in instilling culture informally over the past 10 months. So we have a bunch of mantras that we say all the time. I have all these quotes on the walls from the greats, and we really are focused on just speed and quality of execution. Let me dive into our company culture a little bit here. So we're following this recipe model, which Slootman did create. You have to give credit where it's due, right? I think the first piece for us is respect. So Dune Security is an inclusive environment that values every team member. We embody this flat hierarchy where diversity of thought and opinion are not just respected, but are actually sought after, right? We encourage junior people to push back on senior people, open communication channels, both ways to ensure that everyone feels valued and heard, promoting fairness and equal opportunity across the organization. And then we have a couple mantras here. We respect ourselves. We prioritize our personal health above all, because without our personal health, we have nothing. We can't build a company. We can't help our families. We respect each other, right? Everyone here at Dune Security is an absolute killer. Treat them as such. Understand that they probably know something that you don't. The second piece is excellence, right? We're committed to the highest possible speed and quality of execution from product development all the way through customer service and experience, right? We design our product like Steve Jobs. We relentlessly focus on production and innovation like Elon Musk. We have a saying in our company, there are excuses and there are results. Customer, the third component of recipe, RECIPE. I think Salesforce built an incredible company, and their customer success, Benioff created the customer success organization. We will never have a customer success organization. We're going more towards the Frank Slootman style. The entire company needs to be focused on customer success and be customer centric, from engineering through product through sales. There shouldn't be an outsourced customer success organization. And providing a 10-star experience for the customer is top of mind for us. Integrity is the next one. We always strive to uphold the highest ethical standards. We create a culture where meritocracy, honesty, trust, and integrity are the bedrock of all interactions and decisions. We don't have any room for any integrity violations. They're non-negotiable because they threaten the very fabric of our high-performance culture. Performance is the next one, right? I spoke about meritocracy, creating this meritocracy where performance and contributions are objectively recognized and rewarded. We hire drivers, right? We don't hire passengers. Everyone in this company needs to be pushing and completely mission driven and providing the best possible product and experience for our customers. The last one is execution, right? So I spoke about this a little bit earlier in our conversation. We prioritize execution over strategy every day of the week, right? A well-executed poor strategy is better than a poorly executed good strategy, for example.
Really, like, it's very thought out. Looks like you spend time. Many companies are rushing so much and they're like, we don't have time, and they don't spend time on this part. So thank you for sharing with us. I really think a lot of people are going to listen to this will appreciate this, and will make them think about their future companies or even what they're doing right now. I want to touch a bit on an A-type personality, because there's a good and bad, depending how you move around. We say loads that type A personalities are usually very driven, they're independent. I think in some cases have kind of high ego as well. Ego. How does it connect to team? Because if you have people that kind of very well respected and think about themselves, it's not always easy to put these people in the same team and say, hey, now play together. I don't care about ego. I want to build the team and the product.
Yeah, it's a really good point, right? It's an excellent point. I think ultimately when the company scales, you need balance, right? Everyone needs to be a driver, but you can have people that are playing their role and are a little bit more type B personality. I think that's totally to be expected. Look, I think ego is something that I think ego is a word that gets, in my opinion, a little bit misconstrued, right? And it's maybe something that's underappreciated. People that know their value and are driving and doing great things, I think that's excellent. That's exactly what we hire for here at Dune Security. The problem is when you have ego without ethics, right? We look at, I won't mention any names, but there have been some amazing companies and founders who have they've revolutionized industries, but they didn't have the ethics in that founding team that were required. And when you have poor ethics and high ego, I think that can be a big problem. So at our company, we potentially have this very strong mentality and everyone knows their worth and the amazing value that they're driving. But we also have an extremely ethical team. Everyone's a really good person. It's the people that you can trust and know are really good people at their core.
When you mention we have to go fast and execute, you as a leader, how do you deal with tasks? Because there's so many different things that you need to think about. What do you do to organize yourself?
So there's two things. One, tactically, I'm a zero inbox kind of guy, right? So I use my inbox as my to-do list and I time box right within the calendar. So pretty simple. I'm not a big Monday.com kind of guy, right? Send myself emails and that's my to-do list. And I rip through that. The way I prioritize tasks is a threefold mechanism. What is urgent, what is important, and what is nice to have, right? When there's something that's urgent, get it done as quickly as possible, especially if it takes you under 5 minutes. Just get it done. If something's important on the days when there are things that you get through and you get through all the urgent things, maybe the important things become urgent, right? And they prioritize themselves. So nice to have, you don't really do. You just focus on what's urgent and important until the nice to have become urgent and important.
How do you manage tasks between different teams? Because you have not just your task, you have the development task, the sales tasks, all the things together.
That's where the hiring comes into play. We hire drivers, not passengers, as I mentioned. And this, again, is not an original thought. This is Frank Slootman, who I've modeled my career after recently. And everyone in the company is completely responsible for their own functional areas. And so I need to hire the best people and trust them to do their jobs. And in doing so, it frees me up to work on the company, not in the company. I can do things like instill strong culture and values. I can hire the best team. I can build the partnerships and the relationships. I can close our biggest deals. I love to get in the nitty gritty. My co-founder, Michael, and I split CPO duties. He's our CTO and our technical co-founder. I'm the non-technical co-founder. I love to get nitty gritty, especially within the product design, right? That's one thing that I really love. But as our company grows and we succeed, of course, I need to outsource more of my responsibilities and work on the company, not in the company.
You mentioned something interesting that we're going to pick on this and go on top of it. You mentioned founders.
Yep.
So as a founder, you're the first and the most important salesperson because you need to sell the dream, you need to sell the baby to other people. You may be not still there because you're still a relatively young company, but tell me about the sale process and tell me, is it easy for you to be able to give it to somebody else, to let somebody else to sell the baby and kind of, as you mentioned, step back and do something else?
Yeah, it's a great question. I posted a sales role. Our first sales role I posted back in November or late October, I believe. When we had over 1,000 applications for a sales role at Dune Security, which I think makes sense because we're at the convergence of AI and cybersecurity. It's a very hot space. And we have this beautiful office here in Soho in New York City. We had over 1,000 applications. I reviewed over 200 resumes and applications. I interviewed over 30 people. I do very quick hiring screens. I do about 8 minutes on average for a hiring screen. I do 15-minute Calendly invites. Oftentimes within the first 5 minutes, I know whether I want to push this person through to the next round and maybe dive deeper with them. I hired our head of growth, Kayla, and I think you're absolutely on point. It's hard for the founder to let go of sales, but I've hired the best possible person for the role, and I've put in the requisite time to get her to a place where she can start running our sales motion. And we'll add some more sales leadership over time and sales professionals. We just brought on our head of business development, Alex, as well, for example. It all comes down to hiring, right? You have to trust the people you hire.
If you may, it will be interesting for people to learn what you mentioned 8 minutes. It's a very short period of time. Funny enough, I posted yesterday that my perfect meeting is 7 minutes. 1 minute for introduction for me, for the other person, 2-3 minutes to talk, 5 minutes to talk about the part, and 1 minute for next steps. So very short, very to the point. So give an advice for a salesperson or junior salesperson that wants to be hired. From your perspective, definitely, what to do and what not to do. Something very short on this 8 minutes call that will make you tick on one side or another side.
There's a really good book on the topic, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's a very good book. It tells you to reign with names and to smile. The very basic things that you can do to get someone to like you, right? People want to work with people who they like. I think that's probably the first piece. The second piece is don't be afraid of your ambition, right? If you feel uncomfortable setting really high goals for yourself, work harder and do better. I think especially in sales is a very quantifiable type of position or career field where people really are able to see the writing on the wall and see the actual production. So yeah, I think don't be afraid of your ambition and be a good person that people like, which all this requires hard work.
Here, I'm laughing. I'll tell you why, because it's very close to my heart. The book you mentioned about. So it is very nice. Great. You're a relatively new company, but if you had the options to go back a year ago, would you do something differently with the company?
The only thing we would do is spend less time meeting with investors in the beginning, because once we started meeting with our customers, with these enterprise CISOs, that's when things started taking off, right? And there's no better person for me to spend time with or for my co-founder, Michael, to spend time with than our customers, our enterprise CISOs who are building this groundbreaking, revolutionary solution with us.
So let's talk about work-life balance. And what I mean by this, I'm not asking if you believe in it. I'm asking more about you have work. It's a lot of pressure, a lot of things happening. What do you do to get back to your full capacity? Meditate, run, go with friends, drink, fly. Everybody's different.
One thing is I stopped drinking alcohol. I drink alcohol very rarely, and over the past 6 months or so, and it's really, I find myself to be about 10% less effective the next day if I drink just a drink of alcohol. So I've really stopped that. I think that's one point. I exercise vigorously every morning. That's a really important thing for me. I meditate as much as I can. I try to have meditation when I'm in a place that is permitting that, even just small moments of meditation. I think balance is another thing that society talks about, and it's something that if you want to revolutionize industries, there is no balance, right? I'm in the office 6 to 7 days a week. All of my friends we work together and we're building together, and my friends are as ambitious as I am, and we push each other. So yeah, I don't think there is balance. If you want to be one of the best, there's no balance.
I'm thinking what you mentioned right now, because I asked you more the question about not if you believe in work-life balance, is what do you do to get back to yourself? And the way you answered is very interesting, because you basically mentioned what do you do proactively not to be in this space when you need to get back to yourself to full capacity. Because you stop drinking, you work out every day, you do meditation, so you proactively take care of yourself, then you don't get hit so much when there are bad days because you're ready for them, if it makes sense.
Spot on. Yes, and there's all these things on LinkedIn. People will talk about this. You recharge your batteries when you're at 50%, not when you're at 0%. You can't ever get down to that point. I have to give credit where it's due, right? I think Jeff Becker, the general partner of Antler, which is the VC accelerator, the most active fund in the world. Jeff is the GP of the New York office, and Jeff wrote a great piece in his Monday morning meeting newsletter this past week about balance and how it's a fallacy. But Michael and I are heading with some of our friends, some founder friends, our chief go-to-market advisor, as well as Jeff Becker, out to go skiing this weekend. It's been a little intense. I haven't taken a vacation since I started the company. So we are taking a day off to go skiing in Deer Valley. So I think that's a good way to recharge, right? Be kind to yourself as well.
We're going to listen to something we call dark side, is where you tell horror stories when stuff didn't work. Definitely don't mention any names, don't mention anything that's not publicly available as well. But if you can share a story, because people don't believe that everything is pink, people don't believe that everything's always working. So if you can share some stories about bad POCs, something that didn't go well, that you learned from it will be great.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think one thing I think about a lot is, obviously I mentioned a bunch in this conversation, hiring the best possible people, which the caveat to that is you have to be very intentional about who you hire, because if someone isn't the right fit, you have to let them go. And we talk a lot about how we're not a family here at Dune Security. We are SEAL Team 6, right? Everyone to my right, to my left has to execute at a very high level. Otherwise, I die. And so everyone needs to be at this A-player mentality. And I think something that can go wrong that I've, maybe not in our company, but I've seen in some other people's companies, is when they hire quickly and they don't fire quickly. And it's kind to that person as well. If they're not the right fit, they're not going to succeed in your company. it's kind to let them go within a week or so that they can find the best possible fit for them. And perhaps what you can do is you can even help them, right? Introduce them to a company who might be a better fit.
David, thank you very much. You bring tons of energy. I think people are going to like the episode. There's a lot of great advice as well. I wish you all the best. I think you guys are doing a good something very good.
Thank you so much, Evgeny. It was a pleasure speaking with you today.